Hi, I'm Nicola and I run Stronger Than Your Mind, mental health support and wellbeing for mamas. So today's top tip Tuesday top tip Tuesday, that's such a tongue twister, is quite deep. It's something that is so common, yet we hide so much of it, myself included. We don't really talk about it a lot, especially not into like detail as well. So today I want to talk about my tips and my personal ways that I handle intrusive thoughts. And first off, I'll talk a bit about what that was like for me, like my journey, so to speak, with intrusive thoughts. And my past, if you don't already know, is I qualified as a counsellor many moons ago, and then I kind of took a completely different direction with my career, and was going to go into law. I know, don't ask, long story. Look at the About Me section on my website, it's kind of all within there. So I'd really stepped away from the traditional counselling method and using my knowledge and my skills day to day when my own mental health started coming to the surface, to the point where I did have a breakdown. And when I was really in the deepest, darkest days of struggling with my mental health, I used to have thoughts that would absolutely petrify me. And they really contributed to how deep and how dark I got. And if you don't know, I did literally get to the point where I tried to end my life. And I'm not going to go into too much about all the different reasons I got to that point, but one of them, definitely a massive contributory factor in that, was my intrusive thoughts. And back then, despite the knowledge that I had, despite the education I'd had, doing all up to level 3 counselling, so that's 3 whole years of practicing and studying counselling, it had kind of just been stored away in my memory bank. It had just been, collecting dust somewhere in a filing cabinet in the midst of all this. And I remember having intrusive thoughts, but not labelling them as intrusive thoughts, not recognising them as intrusive thoughts. I remember just having the most disgusting, the most scary intrusive thoughts ever. And to me, they was me. That was me. How on earth could I think something so vile? How on earth could I think something that is totally not in line with what I'm thinking or feeling? So I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and so sometimes my thoughts could get very dark and very wrong, and I would take that as me. And I think often we will share have intrusive thoughts, but we don't necessarily share what they are, because we're that ashamed and we're that embarrassed about them. And mine were that bad, especially with my older children. I've got 4 kids, 3 are teenagers, 1 is just about to turn 3 next week actually. But with my older children, when I'd really not dealt with my mental health, I wouldn't bath my kids. I would not bath them, because in my head, my intrusive thoughts would tell me that I was going to do things to them the same way that my dad had done things to me. And I wouldn't have thoughts about what exactly it was. It would just be that I was going to do it. Like, you can't bath your kids. You can't be doing that because you'll end up doing something to them. Or my kids would run up the stairs and I'd see the little bums running upstairs, like fully clothed. But I'd be like, oh, look at their bum. And then in my head, I'd be like, see, you're going to be like your dad. You're going to end up touching your kids one day. And I'd be like, oh. And it would petrify me to the point I was resisting so much. I was like, I'm not going to be that monster. So I will remove myself. I do nappy changes as and when I had to. But if dad was there, but nappy change, you do it. Bath, you do it. You do baths. And the intrusive thoughts continued, and I'm sharing that with you to show like how bad they can get, and that I took them as me. I took them as that was me having that thought, because obviously it was in my head, so how is it not? And now I'm kind of just going to leave that there and go on to actually that was an intrusive thought and how do you deal with them. So back when I was first having them, even though I had the skills and the knowledge, I still didn't apply that to myself and be like, that's an intrusive thought. Even most recently, when my youngest was born and I was really struggling with postnatal depression and anxiety, I would have thoughts of wanting to kill myself, but then thinking, but I can't leave her here, she needs me. Well, we'll just have to both die then. And then I'd be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But now it was much easier for me to recognise, like, that's an intrusive thought. You're struggling here. You need help. So the first top tip is to recognise, to know they are not you. Them intrusive thoughts are just that, they're intrusive. And the fact they're intrusive is because you don't want to have them. They're not a welcomed thought, and therefore that means it is not you. It is not you thinking that thought, it is your brain. If it was you, our thoughts are just, think of your brain as a computer, as it's a separate entity sort of thing. If thoughts were you, if they was what you was at the core, in your soul, if you like to call it, if you're spiritual, in your heart, if they are you, then why are they talking to you? Because if that's you, you just know it, it just is. It'd just be. You wouldn't have to say it to you, it wouldn't have to talk it to you. So I think so often we get so mixed up thinking our thoughts are us, and it's like, oh no, they're not. It's just a thought. It is not you. It's not who you are. And the whole fact it feels intrusive, the whole fact it doesn't feel nice, the fact it scares you, the fact it upsets you is evidence to prove to you that isn't you. That is not you having that thought. That is your brain. So I think for me, that is the biggest tip so early on, is to recognise that they're intrusive thoughts and they are not you. They are not you. They do not represent you. They do not define you. They do not say who you are as a person. They are damn scary, but they are not you. So if you're watching this because you've come through the link in my emails, then hit reply on that email and let me know what has been your biggest takeaway listening to this today. If you're watching this just directly off YouTube because you've subscribed to my channel, then have a look at the link in the description box and you can sign up for my emails by joining the waiting list for my Stronger Than Your Mind Academy. And on that note, whether you're in my emails or whether you're coming from YouTube, wherever you're watching me on, you might have come off my Instagram as well, actually, because I'll probably share this to my stories. If you want more help on this, if you're thinking, oh gosh, yes, this is resonating me, like, let me know how it's resonating with you by hitting reply and what your biggest takeaway is. But if you're ready to really start digging deeper in this, there's a whole unit within the topic of understanding your mind in the Stronger Than Your Mind Academy. So there's 5 topics within the academy: accepting my mind, understanding my mind, reset my mind, condition my mind, and then stronger than my mind, or your mind. So in unit 2, in topic 2, there's a unit in there all to do with intrusive thoughts, and we really go a lot deeper into this. But that is me just sharing with you kind of like the starting block to it and the biggest tip that I can give someone. So I hope that's helped you. I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway has been. So don't forget to hit reply on the email that this is linked into, or if you're watching it on YouTube, then subscribe to my emails and send me an email through that way. I was going to send it in the comments, but I probably won't even know how to check the comments yet on here. So the best way to get hold of me is through them emails. So if you're not on the list, go get on it. Plus you will then get to know when the academy reopens again. It is getting scary close now. So you will be the first to know when it opens if you are on that email list as well as. So let me know what has been your biggest takeaway from listening to this today. And if you can, share these emails. I'm not sure how you do it, but I'll try and put it on the email thing, because you never know who might need to hear this. You never know who follows you on social media who might need to hear this today and to have the help of how to start to get control of their mind and dealing with intrusive thoughts. So I hope you have an amazing Tuesday, and I will see you next week for another Top Tip Tuesday.